The ruins of old Earth smoldered beneath a sky choked with ash. Leela crouched in the skeletal remains of what had once been a grocery store, her fingers trembling as she pried open a dented can of synthetic protein paste. At 17, she had survived 3 years since the Draconis swarm first descended from the stars, reducing humanity's gleaming cities to rubble and bone. She was alone now. The last of her family had fallen 6 months ago. The whimpering caught her attention first, a sound so pathetic and desperate that it cut through the constant howl of wind across the wasteland. Leela froze, her hand instinctively moving to the plasma cutter at her belt. Nothing that made noise survived long in the ruins. The dragons saw to that. But curiosity, that most human of traits, drove her forward. Behind a collapsed wall, she found them. 2 dragon cubs, no larger than foxes, their scales dull and cracked, their enormous eyes filmed with starvation. One was midnight blue, the other deep crimson. They should have been terrifying miniature versions of the creatures that had slaughtered billions. Instead, they looked pitiful, their wings torn, their bodies covered in burns. "You're just babies," Leela whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. The blue one lifted its head weakly. Its eyes met hers, and in that moment, Leela saw something she hadn't expected. Intelligence. Not the cunning of a predator, but the desperate awareness of a dying child. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to let nature take its course. These were the offspring of monsters. They would grow into engines of destruction, but Leela had not survived 3 years of hell by abandoning her humanity. She opened the can of protein paste and approached slowly, hands outstretched. The cubs flinched but didn't flee, they were too weak. Leela scooped the paste onto her fingers and offered it to the blue one. After a moment's hesitation, a tiny forked tongue emerged, lapping weakly at the food. The crimson cub watched, then crawled forward. For the next hour, Leela fed them her entire week's ration, every last scrap of food she'd hoarded. She told herself she'd find more. She always did. But as she watched their scales slowly regain their luster, their breathing steady, she knew she'd done something monumentally stupid. "You can't stay here," she told them, though she doubted they understood. "When you're strong enough, you fly away, far away from humans. Understand?" The blue cub, she decided to call him Alden in her mind, after her younger brother tilted his head and made a sound like crystal chimes. She couldn't keep them. She knew that. But for 3 days, Leela returned to that ruined store, bringing whatever food she could scavenge. The cubs grew stronger. Alden began to fly short distances. The crimson one, more cautious, stayed close to Leela, studying her with those vast, intelligent eyes. On the 4th day, Leela arrived to find them gone. She told herself it was for the best. She told herself she'd done a good deed in a world devoid of goodness. She told herself many things as she trudged back to her shelter, alone once more. She didn't hear them coming. 1 week after she'd found the cubs, the sky turned black, not with ash, but with wings. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The Draconis swarm descended on the ruins with a sound like thunder, their scales gleaming like polished obsidian and molten gold. They were massive. Some with wingspans exceeding 50 meters. Their presence so overwhelming that Leela's knees buckled. This was it. This was how humanity ended, not with a war, but with a final extermination. Leela stood in the center of the clearing, refusing to die, cowering in shadows. If these were her last moments, she would face them as a human, standing tall. The largest dragon landed before her, its scales an iridescent purple that seemed to contain entire galaxies. It lowered its massive head, and when it spoke, the words resonated directly in Leela's mind. "You fed our young." Behind the massive dragon, Leela saw them. Alden and his crimson sibling, now grown to the size of horses, their scales brilliant and healthy. They chirped excitedly, weaving between the legs of the enormous adults. "We are Draconis," the voice continued. "We came to your world seeking resources, We saw you as vermin, obstacles to be cleared. But you starved yourself to save our children. Why? 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 Lila's voice cracked, but she forced out the words. Because they were hungry. Because they were children. Because I'm human. And that's what humans do. A ripple of something passed through the assembled dragons, a sound like wind through caverns, a collective exhalation. The purple dragon's eyes, each the size of Lila's torso, studied her with an intensity that seemed to peer into her soul. We did not understand humans. We saw your weapons, your cities, your wars. We did not see this. The dragon gestured with one massive claw toward Alden and his sibling. Compassion toward an enemy. Sacrifice for those who cannot repay it. These are not the actions of vermin. The dragon army shifted, and Lila realized with growing astonishment that they were bowing. Thousands of dragon heads lowered in unison. We have made a grave error, human child called Lila. We cannot undo what has been done, but we can offer recompense. You saved our young. Now, we claim you as ours. I don't understand, Lila whispered. You will fly with us. You will speak for your kind. And we will help rebuild what we destroyed. The purple dragon extended one massive wing, creating a shelter over Lila. The Draconis do not forget debts. You are packed now. You are family. Alden bounded forward, nuzzling against Lila with enough force to nearly knock her over. His mental voice, young and bright, echoed in her mind. Mother friend, you come fly now. Tears streamed down Lila's face, the first she'd allowed herself since the world ended. Around her, the dragon army began to sing. A sound of harmonics and frequencies that made the very air shimmer. In the distance, she could see other humans emerging from hiding, staring in disbelief at the impossible sight. One starving girl had fed 2 dying cubs, and changed the fate of 2 species forever. Because that's what humans do. Even when hope is dead, even when logic says to abandon compassion, humans find a way to care. It was humanity's greatest weakness, and their most formidable strength, the thing that made them truly awesome.